eyes, like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Keep breathing, take it in and let it out. Keep breathing, it's gonna be okay. Believe in a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing. From the City of Angels in Los Angeles, welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com, along with my lovely co-host, former mayor of a California beach town, and best-selling author, Debbie Peterson. And we're coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio and podcast networks, on 26 global audio and video platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher Radio, and many, many more. In fact, we're proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast on FeedSpot out of thousands and #1 caregiver podcast on Player FM of the top 50. We have an especially exciting show planned for you today. Rocky Batzel, native of Scranton, Pennsylvania, right up there with Joe Biden. Rocky's the inventor of SnapSlide, a breakaway from the push and twist pill bottles, and currently serves as the company's chief executive officer. So before we get into that, I do want to thank my last week's guest. It's about navigating the Medicare maze, Nikki Ferret, the owner-operator of Brick House Agency at Chicagoland Medicare. But just a reminder, you can watch or listen to that interview and all our interviews, including this one, on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of our other 25 global platforms I mentioned earlier. Okay, enough of that. Rocky, welcome to the Caregiver Dave Show. We're so excited to have you on.
Good to be here, Dave. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, our pleasure. I like to ask my guests, first question is, who is Rocky Batzel and why was he placed on this earth?
Great question, Dave. I don't know if I ever got that one before.
I hope not.
I'm just a regular guy, another wild and crazy inventor type. I was a medical student. I had a passion about medicine. I left medical school to jump into the crazy unknown of invention and entrepreneurialism. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I'm kind of this. And I don't like to always follow the path. Kind of like to
You think out of the box.
Yep, and figure things out. So I left medical school. I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do, and what I wanted to invent, or just had it come to me. And my grandma or my mother one day was like, "Rock, what are you doing? If you want to think of something for these pill bottles. Graham can't get into them, and I have to go over all the time and open these bottles for her. And then she leaves a cap on them, and she knocks them over. The pills go all over the place. So the grandkids come over. She gets paranoid. She puts them back on, and the whole process starts all over again." And I thought that was pretty interesting, because as I thought about this, I'm like, I don't even like them. They're like,
My wife can't open it, and she's 80.
It's crazy. And I started looking and realized that these things haven't changed significantly since 1974, almost half a century.
Yeah, and that guy's made enough money. It's time for somebody else.
Yeah, it's time for somebody else. And little innovation, some torque-dependent mechanism that requires a lot of force and dexterity to open them. So I'm like, I got to think about this. So that's what I do. I'm the kind of guy that I see a problem and, okay, is there a better solution? And take all the variables. Okay, I know there's a lot of bottles. There's about 4 billion prescription bottles in the U.S. alone. It needs to be very simple. It needs to have a 2-part mechanism for the child resistance, like a push and turn or a squeeze and turn. So I had kind of elements that they needed to have. It needed to be simple, it needed to be able to mass produce at high volumes, low cost, and it needed a 2-part mechanism.
I feel like we're on Shark Tank here. Did you get a patent?
Oh, we got a couple patents. So I got my first patent, and then since then we've expanded out different applications, and now we currently have 8 patents and 3 more pending.
Good for you.
Now, did you test them on your grandmother? Was she your market researcher?
She was my first market researcher. My when I started this, she was in her early 90s, and now she's 97, like mid 90s, early to mid 90s, and now she's 97, and she's still my first go-to and my favorite go-to when it comes to market research.
She must be so proud of you.
She's pretty excited. She has more SnapSlides than she knows what to do with.
So,
You know,
obviously, the first question I wanted to ask you was, you've approached pharmacies, no doubt. What are you doing to market this thing? I mean, this would be a perfect project for Shark Tank. You know, if you didn't need the money to invest and you had your own money, right? So
as I started getting down this road, once I actually had the idea, I saw a big one on market research. So, I mean, you have to like talk to people. You have to see what their complaints are, you know, and I gathered from able-bodied people to disabled amputees, just what are their complaints? And it's general consensus that nobody cares for. You know, it's a struggle for whether you're able-bodied or not. Some people, amputees, hemiparesis after a stroke, you know, you have no access in one arm. So I knew it had to be one-armed.
Yeah, that's my wife.
Yeah, you know about that, Dave. I mean, 80% of you have a stroke, 80% have some sort of hemiparesis on one side of the body, you know, and then get the same symphony of thoughts of independence. You know, I don't want somebody that has loss of one arm, whether it's an amputee, neuromuscular disorder, or hemiparesis. I want to still be able to do something, and I still want to like tasks of everyday living. I still want to be able to do it and not depend on somebody else. That independence thing was huge and something I kept hearing.
So have you sold any? Is this in production? Is it in the market? Is it still in your head? Have you made a prototype? Where are we at?
Yep, we're way well past prototypes. We're a lot of development. When you ever create something new, you got to develop it out. And very simple, but it's not simple. You know, it looks simple, but it's a lot of development, a lot of getting it right. What are those optimal forces? Like the grandmother experiments, you know,
and you're not going public with the actual thing, or someone might try to copy it and make it a little different and so on. So
protect yourself along the way. And we approached several pharmacies, manufacturers. It's funny, this industry.
Hopefully they signed your inventor's book.
Yep, they signed.
I'm an inventor too.
All right, good. Us crazy inventors. I mean, we're needed.
Protect yourself, man.
Yep, you got to. But I noticed this industry, nobody wants to change. Resistance to change is
really.
Yep, it's tough when they're set in their ways.
Maybe you should go on Shark Tank. Maybe they've got some great ideas with great connections. I can see Mr. Wonderful going crazy on this one. He says, I only want 1 penny per cap when you get it going.
That's exactly.
I'll give you $1 million.
Give you $1 million. I want 1 penny. Thought about a lot of people. Go ahead, Deb.
What's so interesting about that is for all of these big pharmaceutical companies, their most likely customer is someone who needs exactly what you provide, and yet there's a resistance to that change. It makes no sense to me.
It doesn't. When I first entered this realm, I was a little naive. I'm like, oh, it's a good idea, and they'll see it. I was able to check the boxes in terms of cost. I know that's a big thing. You know, it can't be still a package, so it can't be astronomically more expensive. You know, and so that's why I needed to be simple. Tested it out, molding, got everything, I's dotted, T's crossed, protection locked up, market research, and still It's tough.
It has to be
They
very
don't.
close to the same cost because nobody wants to spend more. And that means you got to go to China because everything comes from China. I tried boycotting China, but there's nothing left. I mean, everything comes from China.
That's very important to me too, to keep manufacturing here in the States. We got to get.
Make them build it here in the United States, and use
Yep.
American workers.
So as I started going, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to worry about licensing. We had a couple licensing deals and it just slow to get to market. The bigger the companies, the slower they move. And, it's,
You lose control.
Being a big company, but there's also cons. Sometimes it's good to be smaller. You're more nimble. You're able to move. You're able to pivot, evolve fast. And we have a manufacturer right now up in Michigan doing a great job for us. And we're currently building the production to fulfill the demand. We have purchase orders awaiting.
Where'd you get your money from?
Investors along the way. We're pretty deliberate on how we raise capital. We do a raise what we need to accomplish certain objectives. Say the first mold, proven moldability, patent protection. All right, that's a milestone. Okay, what's the next one? Raise more capital to accomplish those objectives instead of raising a boatload, early on and probably give up a lot of equity in the company at the time. Kind of more grind it out and just accomplish the objectives and raise money in increments to get to a point that you're commercially ready. And now we're in the midst of raising again to build production. It takes these cavities, these molds are huge because it's not something you can't start out small with. Like minimum orders are 10 million units. Then that's small. You think like 10 million is like a lot? Not in this world, not in the packaging space. So you need significant cavitations to be able to produce 10 million units.
Will the bottle look very similar to the existing bottles without the cap? I mean,
good question. When I first started it, I had a cube design. It was a cube embodiment because I thought geometrically, nothing beats a cube. The packing density, you could fit so many more cubes into a box than cylinders. And just so it has a SnapSlide, since it's a linear mechanism, it allows you to be on a cube. So that was the first iteration, that was the first development that we undertook, was a cube design. We got a lot of pushback on there because it's too different. You got too much to do with the label, and I'm like, oh god. I'm like, all right, so if you want a cylinder, I'll go back to the drawing board. So I adapted SnapSlide and what you're used to, just a standard cylinder and snap-on cap, but instead of having to turn it off, you just press it and you slide it open.
One digit.
One digit. Just hold it, slide it open. And then still have that two-part mechanism. Instead of a push and turn or squeeze and turn, is a press and slide. Like, it won't open, but you got to press it in that perfect spot and slide it open. So I didn't.
It seems to me.
I'm sorry. You tested with kids, right? Can't open it. Okay.
Yep. There's a specific test you got to undergo through the Consumer Product Packaging Committee. It's CPSC testing. So we underwent that test with the licensed agency, and we did several of them throughout the way to find that perfect. There's a
one kid out of a million was able to open it.
Nope. So, but after you have the children go, so you do the children test first, and then they do the adults. So you need to have seniors do it to make sure that it's easy for them. So I'm
assuming maybe a dementia patient might still not be able to. Yes, no?
Yeah, maybe. We find that with adults that the average learning curve to figure it out is about 23 seconds. They don't know what to do. They're looking at it, and once you have it, you have it. And some people say it takes too long to figure out. That's a con. you know, and I kind of think of it, I'm flattered when that happens. I think that's a good thing because I wanted it to be more mentally challenging than physically. You know, you only have to breach a mental challenge once. A physical challenge, you have to breach every single
How
time.
much pressure does it take the thumb to push it, or the finger?
About a pound and a half, roughly. And
And
then
Dave, on the dementia side of it, generally patients with dementia aren't administering their own meds anyway. So that's probably not as
Yeah,
much of an issue.
yeah.
I'm thinking back to the cube. Seems to me that if you could offer a price advantage on the shipping because it's a cube, depending on production costs, of course, that people might be willing to adapt for a price advantage, especially when it's also a customer advantage. And maybe you should just get into the labeling side of it. If the label makes them nervous, then tackle that too.
yeah,
And, we're so into recycling everything, and I feel so bad about throwing all these bottles away, these empty bottles. Why doesn't the pharmacy want them back? I don't know.
that's another good thing. And that's one thing when I was going, I wanted to, the nice thing when you're inventing something, the con of it has never been done before. So there's no blueprint on it. You have to figure it all out. And it's a lot of trial and error. Does this work? Oh, it doesn't. Back to the drawing board. We got to increase the force. We got to increase the tolerance here, decrease it. But it allows you also to go outside the box and improve things that may have been a problem before. So what we discovered, which is pretty interesting, you don't have to there's no torque anymore. And what's a requirement for using torque is threads, right? And if you imagine the threads, they're layers. So each of those threads go around and makes the cap a little thicker, and it makes the bottle a little thicker so the threads could get around, if you could imagine, right? Now, we don't need threads, so we're able to shave. We have one little bead that snaps over here that locks it on the bottle. Remove all that plastic in the cap and the bottle. Now, that saves about a gram to a gram and a half of plastic per unit. Now, what's a gram and a half? That's not a lot. But when you multiply
Millions.
that by billions, Deb, you multiply that by
Yeah.
And even by writing on there, please return empty bottle to your pharmacist, that's going to reduce their cost,
Yep.
And, you can maybe invent some little sanitizer machine that they just throw them all in there, boom, 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 and they're sanitized just like they were brand new. They'd be paying like 1/10 the cost they're paying now, or maybe 25% or something like that. It just really needs to be marketed and sold,
And it does. That's the thing. The FDA doesn't allow you to reuse prescription bottles from pharmacies. So that's
Maybe if the FDA approved prescription bottle sanitizer, nobody probably came up with the idea.
So did I miss something here? Are they recyclable? Did you say?
They are recyclable. Every one of them is recyclable. It uses just an FDA grade polypropylene or HDP, totally recyclable.
What is the
I'm
average?
going to suggest that you, as having worked in local government, that maybe your angle, first of all the environmental services folks, the trash people, say no plastic, no plastic, no plastic, no plastic, and all the health people say no plastic, no plastic. If you can market it as recyclable, you might be able to get government entities to back you on this. And there are a lot of government-backed healthcare systems, hospitals, and that might be a way of looking at it.
Do you actually know how many bottles get thrown away in the landfill every year? And what does the average bottle cost to buy as a wholesaler?
I don't know how many get thrown away in the landfill. I would hope that a lot of people do recycle.
You need to know that number because this is an environmentally friendly product. And
what I do know is if you switch to SnapSlide based on our weight savings, we'd save about 21 million pounds of plastic annually.
And then if you can recycle it, how much do you save?
21 million pounds, possibly. If
If they all, yeah, if they all recycle.
they all recycle.
See, this is like
Mhm.
bottled water because, 25 years ago, if you mentioned, hey, I got a great idea, we're going to put water in a bottle, we're going to sell it, and nobody got that. It's in the tap, or your sparklets, nobody will buy bottled. And I sell more bottled water at my gas station than I do soda now. So, you got to teach people out of the bottle.
Education is huge.
And it's got to make money sense also.
It's all
You got,
about the
you got
natural
some homework ahead of you, my friend.
Oh yeah, I'm always doing homework.
So why do you think the industry, and we're talking about the pharmaceutical industry, so they don't have a great reputation, and they're not known for not being greedy. Why do you think they're not jumping on board here or caring about seniors who can't open up their own bottle? My wife is a good example of someone who's paralyzed one side of sound mind. I mean, she can have she knows what's happening, and she just only has one hand. So it's a one-hand bottle opener, basically.
I don't think that. I think they would do it. I don't think they're aware of the problem. I think
Really?
There's when you're inventing, you have to discover a problem and then invent the solution. And I don't think the huge breakthrough is so much the invention, but the discovery of the problem. I don't think anybody saw this inability of people with one arm. That
Then you need an infomercial to the wholesalers or the manufacturers interviewing, X number of seniors because they can't open the bottle, they can't manage their own meds. And I'm sure you can have, testimony after testimony after testimony as to why they can't manage their meds because they can't get this silly bottle open. Now, of course,
And you need
if you tell the pharmacist, they'll give you the upside down one where you can open it. But even that one's hard for my wife, and it's really tight.
yeah, you still
you need
require
an advocate like AARP to start advocating for you.
that would be great.
And get the seniors to start advocating for you, and have a campaign of rumbling seniors.
Don't mess with the seniors. Yeah,
It'll almost be, you almost have to be racist not to be behind this thing,
Dave, I
everybody
say the
Yeah.
same
accuse
thing.
people
Gray
of racism.
Panthers.
I say the same thing because it's no burden. Burden for everybody else. That's one of our mottos. Convenient for all, life changing for many.
It's a twofer. Yeah.
I mean, the costs are the same, the scale's the same. Uses about 25% less plastic and more accessibility to a larger demographic.
Have you tried going
And
on?
why are they discriminating against their biggest market?
Deb, we gotta ask them. I'd love to ask them that question. And it's a way, if it's all about the money, it's a way to get more market share. Like there's 12 million people out there that only have use of one arm. And I'm not even talking about the 60 million Americans that have arthritis or some neuromuscular disorder, or the 180 million that just want more convenience. Just strictly on those with one arm, there's 12 million. 12 million.
Have you thought about going on Shark Tank? By the way, they won't like the recycling part because they won't make as much money.
I've thought about it. We have a good pool of investors, but something that's I'm open to. I always say, I'm like, my appearance on Shark Tank, Dave, is going to be when I'm on the panel. I want to be on the panel first.
Well, the thing is, it's not so much about whether they give you the money. It's the fact that you get exposure on national TV and you can put your message across.
That's true. We actually we were kind of under the radar. When you're developing something, you just a little low key with stealth mode. So we just opened up in May. We launched publicly, and social media, Facebook, a lot of the pharmacy companies will what we heard is, consumers don't care. It's not a problem. They were questioning this as being a problem that people care about. I was saying that they're wrong. They're in their ways. So we launched our Facebook, and the reaction was overwhelming. Within 2.5 months, we're over 14,000 followers already. People clamoring, asking where we could get SnapSlide. So I've been sending SnapSlides all over the country now to people. And
That's wonderful.
A lot of them give good testimonials back. They give like a little video. So that's always, seeing that is always like a touching thing. So I would enjoy them.
But that's another option. They could decant their meds into one of those. So if you're a caregiver, you could decant the med into one of your SnapSlides.
For sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And so then you only have to do it once. You don't have to do it every time they take them.
Yeah, just once you get your new one.
Yeah, by the time you saturate the market, you'll have a new invention, maybe a larger size or some other form.
Well, I'll tell you another one, a story. I hope I haven't told this story on the show already, but I had a Queensland healer, and when she was a puppy, she was energetic, and I was taking a thyroid medication made from pigs, and it smelled wonderful to a Queensland healer puppy.
Oh boy.
And Armor Thyroid, and man, she got the bottle off my dressing table and chewed into it and ate the whole thing. We don't know how much, didn't do her any harm. Vet pumped her stomach, dog was fine. But that's the next thing. How do you make it pet proof?
That might be a tough one. They got some teeth on them, and they're smart. They'll figure it out. Pet resistant.
So we've asked you a whole bunch of different questions. What questions haven't we asked you that you want answered?
Oh boy, you guys are the pros at that.
Then I'll ask you, what question would you like to answer that we haven't asked you yet?
I would just like to have people aware of what we're doing and create that voice. I think this is one of these innovations that requires some noise from everyone.
I agree. So how do they get to your Facebook page so they can make noise?
SnapSlide, SnapSlide. It slides and it snaps. Put it together, you got SnapSlide. So visit us on Facebook and follow us, like us. Our website, we have a petition on there. There's a couple simple questions, kind of like join the movement. We've been getting inundated with those. So back in
a petition.
I keep printing them out. I have a whole pile of these.
That's great.
How many?
Got about 2,000 petitions right now. So and counting.
When you get to 200,000.
200,000?
And you got some.
Right.
Yeah, you need a really, really big number. You've got a great number of followers. I'm impressed with that. But yeah, the petitions, it's going to take a lot.
Yep.
And you can use Facebook on that,
Yeah, that's what, like, there's you got the Facebook and messages. So we're just gathering all these people. We have purchase orders right now, so we're revving up production.
Great.
And hope to go to market early Q1 of this upcoming year, 25.
Are they paying in advance for those purchase orders or no?
One is, can't tell you how much, but we'll get the advances, and then once we're up and running there's different increments of payment. So the first launch customers are the most important. So.
Well, okay.
So if folks are listening to the show today and they want to sign the petition, where do they go to sign the petition?
SnapSlide.com. So www.snapslide.com, and then Facebook, SnapSlide.
All right.
Follow us, like us, shoot us a message. We always get back to you. So like I said,
well, good luck to you.
A lot of people calling with like amputees, just wanted, so we send them samples. We've been sending a bunch of samples out, so there's SnapSlides all over the place. right now.
Good. All right.
You guys will see it. It'll be out there. You can't stop progress. It makes sense.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
you can't. So Debbie, how can people get a hold of you so you can let them know what you do?
Oh, right now, the best way to do it would be to look at Amazon.com for my books, The Happiest Corruption, Sleaze, Lies, and Suicide in a California Beach Town, and City Council 101. It's election time. So go to Amazon and get one of those books and figure out how to do it right.
Awesome. And I'm at caregiverdave.com. And just a reminder, all our live shows become recorded, pod, and video casts on all our platforms mentioned before, like YouTube, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and many others. Also, my membership website, caregiverdave.com, a free membership support community, lots of free gifts and resources. Also, please check the like or follow button on whatever platform you're watching or listening to this one on. It helps us reach even more caregivers by improving Google's search engine algorithm. So again, thank you guys, and thank you to all my listeners out there for tuning in each and every week, making us the #1 caregiver podcast on the internet.
Dave Nasani, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too, Thrive to Stay Alive as a Caregiver. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through because he is one. He now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his amazing caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too, Thrive and Stay Alive as a Caregiver will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere and at caregiverdave.com.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.